China's last five dynasties lasted about 1,300 years, nearly a third of all recorded Chinese history. They built million-person megacities, launched treasure ships that may have rivaled football fields, and printed the world's first paper money long before Europe had banks. One sent fleets as far as Africa. Another opened the Silk Road to Venice. We'll break down what made each dynasty stand out, and you'll walk away with a clear favorite. Tang Dynasty, the Cosmopolitan Golden Age. Imagine a city so rich and open you could hear 20 languages before lunch. This was Chang'an, the Tang capital and the largest city on Earth at the time. Over 1 million people lived here. Persian traders, Korean envoys, Indian monks, Central Asian musicians. Entire neighborhoods were dedicated to foreigners, each with their own markets of food and temples. Walking through the streets, you might smell Persian spices mixing with the scent of freshly brewed Chinese tea. This wasn't by chance. Chang'an was the eastern terminus of the Silk Road, and all those goods, people, and ideas funneled straight into the city. Tang fashion was bold and colorful, heavily influenced by Central Asia, and tea culture was exploding, with tea houses becoming social hubs. Music blended east and west, popularizing instruments like the pipa and new rhythms from far-off lands. This was also a golden age of literature and art. Poets Li Bai and Du Fu wrote verses still memorized by school children today. Tang painters created vivid murals in Buddhist caves, and artisans produced delicate ceramics traded across Asia. In 868, just before the dynasty's decline, they printed the Diamond Sutra, the oldest surviving printed book. It was a symbol of Tang's intellectual ambition. But even a golden age can't last forever. Political corruption, rebellion, and military defeats weakened the Tang, setting the stage for a new kind of empire driven by invention. Song Dynasty, the Inventors era. Centuries before Europe caught up, the Song were reshaping the world. They pioneered the first government-backed paper money, turned gunpowder into real battlefield weapons, and saw Bisheng invent movable-type printing. Song engineers even sketched out early flamethrowers and landmines, technology that felt centuries ahead of its time. Urban life flourished like never before. Kaifeng and Hangzhou had bustling night markets, tea houses, restaurants, bookshops, and even early department store-like shops selling luxury goods. At night, lantern-lit streets stayed alive with entertainers, storytellers, and opera performers. Art and science thrived. Painters like Zhang Zheduan captured panoramic city scenes in works like Along the River during the Qingming Festival, a breathtaking scroll showing hundreds of people in their daily routines, a medieval Where's Waldo of song life. Advances in shipbuilding and navigation made China a maritime power, trading as far as the Arabian Peninsula. Yet, the Song faced constant pressure from northern nomadic states. Despite their technological brilliance, their military was vulnerable, and that weakness would be exploited by a force from the steppes unlike any China had faced before. Yuan Dynasty, the Mongol world. From the Mongolian steppes, the Yuan dynasty tied China into the vast Mongol Empire, a realm that stretched all the way to the gates of Europe. Founded by Kublai Khan, grandson of Genghis, it was the first dynasty to unite all of China under foreign rule and connect it to the largest contiguous land empire in history. For the first time, you could travel from Beijing to Venice on a single trade network. Under the Pax Mongolica, the Silk Road came alive again. Chinese silk, porcelain, spices, paper, and even gunpowder made their way to Europe, while glassware, fine cloth, and precious metals flowed back into China. Along the route, the Mongols built rest stops and inns that made travel safer and faster than ever before. Marco Polo's stories of Yuan China amazed Europeans. With tales of huge cities, advanced roads and canals, and unfamiliar customs, the Mongols were unusually tolerant for their time, letting Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, and Taoism all exist side by side. They also brought Persian and Central Asian styles into China's art, buildings, and even food. But foreign rule came at a cost. The Yuan kept a strict social order that put Mongols and Central Asians above the Han Chinese. Resentment grew, and when famine, floods, and rebellions hit, the empire unraveled, giving rise to a new dynasty that would build ships bigger than the world had ever seen. Ming Dynasty, Voyages and Walls. The Ming Dynasty is remembered for building the Great Wall we see today, but they also looked outward, sending the largest fleets the world had ever seen. Admiral Zheng Hu's treasure fleets sailed with porcelain, silk, and gifts across Southeast Asia, India, and even Africa, decades before Columbus set out. Some ships are said to have stretched over 120 meters, carrying hundreds of sailors, diplomats, and translators. Back home, the Ming strengthened China's defenses, rebuilding the Great Wall into the massive stone and brick structure we picture today. They made Beijing their capital and built the Forbidden City, a palace of nearly 1,000 buildings that showed off imperial power. Ming porcelain, especially the famous blue and white style, became a global luxury, traded as far as the Middle East and Europe. Craftsmen also perfected cloisonné enamel, lacquerware, and silk embroidery that still inspire collectors. But later, corruption and costly wars drained the empire's wealth. The Ming turned inward, cutting back overseas trade. These choices weakened China's global influence and left the dynasty vulnerable to invasion from the north. Qing Dynasty. The Qing dynasty ruled more land than any dynasty before them. Tibet, Xinjiang, Mongolia, Taiwan, and Manchuria were all under their control. Founded by the Manchus, they made the Q hairstyle a symbol of loyalty while blending their own traditions with Chinese culture. The 1700s were a time of prosperity. China's population nearly tripled, helped by new crops from the Americas like corn, potatoes, and sweet potatoes. The Qing economy boomed on exports of tea, silk, and porcelain, which dominated global trade. Cities grew and culture thrived, from Peking opera to breathtaking landscape paintings. But the modern world closed in. The Opium Wars with Britain exposed Qing weakness, leading to unequal treaties that gave away trade rights and territory. Huge uprisings like the Taiping Rebellion killed millions, while foreign powers carved China into spheres of influence. By the late 1800s, reformers tried to modernize, but it was too late. In 1911, a revolution forced the last emperor, Puyi, to step down, ending more than 2,000 years of imperial rule. 5 dynasties, 13 centuries, golden ages, world empires, and finally, collapse. So, if you could step into history for just one day, which dynasty would you choose?